Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. Today we have another guest, and I'm excited to introduce you to Ericka Lewis. Ericka is someone I've known not well, just in the last few years. Ericka is a former New Englander who now lives in Virginia, and after 10 years in Virginia, feels like Virginia is home. Um, Ericka is very, I'll say, much like me, had a career in an industry where at times she found herself to be the only woman in the room. She also started her career as a paralegal, which is so serendipitous. That's where I started my career as well. Um, in Virginia, she spends her time, in addition to work, I'll say, with her family. Family is one of those things that is so important to Ericka. She's a walker. And when I asked her about hobbies, she told me that walking was a form of maybe moving meditation, right? Active meditation. And for many listeners and many of my clients, meditation comes hard. So I can't wait to talk a little bit about how that moving meditation comes into your life. Ericka is deeply connected to family, other people, and the earth. If you saw her home, and I've had the privilege once to see her home, she has a beautiful property with chickens and gardens, and she focuses with her family in that connection with the earth and bringing that connection to her family in the form of food and meals. Um, and with that, I'm going to say, welcome, Ericka, and then we'll get into all of the details of that beautiful life. So, welcome.
Thank you, Laurel. That was such a beautiful introduction.
It's always hard to introduce ourselves. I have a practice with my clients, and I've done this myself in asking someone to introduce themselves without title at work, relationships or roles at work, and then relationships and families, or friends or communities. And it's really hard to, look at who am I in my own individual self without all of those relationships and titles. So I'm happy to find or to learn those things about you. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank
Um,
you for inviting me. This is such a privilege.
well, I can't wait to learn more about you and your beautiful life. So I love to start with the question of what is it that makes your life beautiful? Or maybe another way to say it is what do you think a beautiful life is?
Hmm. That's such a great question and a challenging one. I would say for me, when I think about my life and I think about it being a beautiful life, I kind of step back and I look at, who I was 10, 15, 20 years ago and the things that I dreamed about and I wanted for my life. And I take time to really look at the reality that I have built those things into my life now and to stay in a place of gratitude for them. So I knew I always wanted to have a family and live in a beautiful place that I feel really connected to. And when I step back from the day-to-day busyness and I realize I have those things, I really get centered and I am living my beautiful life. Um, and so I feel like a beautiful life is one that makes you happy, you know, one where you're living the life of your dreams, you know.
And how do you balance now, family? You have two young daughters. You also have a demanding career with
Mhm.
lots of responsibility in the workplace. So how do you, and I don't want to use the word balance, but how do you integrate, those roles and relationships and responsibilities into a beautiful life?
Yeah, it's been a really big challenge, to be honest. Um, but my career is something that really I'm very proud of, and it gives me a lot of purpose. And I can say the same about, being a mother and a wife and having a family. And so trying to be really clear um, on the type of person I want to be in both places and committing to being my best self in both places when I can, as much as I can, has been how I've kept balance or stay integrated and be present, and also realizing the boundaries I need to set for myself in both places, and staying true to those. And sometimes it's as simple as, we're living in a world where most people love working from home, and I don't, because I like to go to work, I like to be at the office, and then I like to walk away because for me, there's a boundary there. When I walk away, it helps my brain space transition from, okay, I'm at work, to, okay, I'm going home, right? Shifting the focus. And that's a really important boundary for me. Um,
I love that you brought up boundaries, and the transition time between one role and another, right? And often we think about integrating, right, work life balance, integrating our work with our life, but having that separation so that you know who you are in the place you are in is a
mhm.
gift.
Yes,
So,
yes. Keeping that clear priority, right? I'm at home. When I'm at home, my priority is my home life, right? And when I'm at work, my priority is my work life.
yeah. So, how long would you say that you have considered your life to be beautiful? Like you talk about the dreams when you were younger of what you wanted in your life.
Mhm.
Even at that point, did you consider, before you had these things, before the dreams came into fruition, like, have you always sensed that your life is beautiful?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think when I look back, at phases of my life, I can't remember a time where I didn't feel some level of living a beautiful life. You know, I can look back and know that there were things that I really wanted and places I really wanted to go and dreams I wanted to, accomplish. But there was always an undercurrent of feeling happy in my life, right? And making decisions from that place and knowing that I had the freedom to shift in ways to keep growing my beautiful life.
So we talk a lot about inner work here on Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. And I'm curious, what does inner work look like or mean to you?
That's such a great question because this is something that, I've struggled with a little bit in my life. I've had a lot of examples of um, inner work in my life, people in my life who have done their inner work and, modeled what that looks like. And for a really long time in my young adulthood, I felt like, it had to be a certain way. I had to have a certain process or a specific practice. And it wasn't until I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago that I really settled into the knowing that your inner work is completely unique to you. And it can be as simple and short or as long and complicated as it is for you, whatever that truth is for you. And so it took me a while to get settled into what inner work was for me and how I was approaching it and my daily practices to support it. Um,
So what do those daily practices look like? And how do you fit them in with a demanding career and a family and um, I'm going to say a homestead farm, right?
yes, yes, I am an aspiring homesteader. That is one of my how I would define myself, I guess.
That's great.
Um, but yeah, I think like 6, 10 years ago, I thought, okay, if I am going to have to meditate, right? And I have to meditate for 30 minutes a day at least if I'm doing it.
Doing it right.
Right? Exactly. And so I was like, well, I can't do that, you know? Um, and so I realized that, my morning meditation is going out at um, sunrise or dawn and spending a few moments just grounding and connecting into the earth and caring for my animals, you know? I spend my mornings seeing the first light of the sun and setting my intention for the day and feeding my chickens and walking my dog. And some days it's 5 minutes, some days it's 15 minutes. It's usually not longer than that. But when I set it, when I set my intentions and I'm really present through those 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, it's it sets such a beautiful, it just sets me up for my day so beautifully. I feel so much more connected to myself, um, and ready to take on a day. And I notice that the days that I kind of scramble through it or I wake up late and I miss it, um, the days are just very different. And so that's one of my daily practices. It's very, very important to me and has become very helpful as I approach a busy day, which most days are.
That's right. And it's so interesting to think about, um, I'm going to call it comparison, like having others model what inner work looks like or what your morning routine should look like, and then giving yourself grace to settle into your own way of doing the inner work, right?
Yes.
Um, and when I think about that comparison, it really it does often prevent us from doing the work because we're so concerned with getting it right, doing it the right way, and
Mhm.
and the measurement of 30 minutes to meditate and 15 minutes of journaling or whatever the practice is. But sometimes it is as simple as just noticing in the full presence of the sunrise and full presence with your chickens and your land and right and your children when they come into that place as well. So,
Yes.
um, tell us about the walking meditation practice that you described. You're walking. You are a walker.
Yes, I love walking. I love walking so much. And I realized that too, I started walking as a routine like 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time it was for because, I just wanted to move my body and I needed to exercise. And it evolved into a way that I just really connect with myself. I find that when I walk, I'm working through things. And I find that if I go, a week or so without walking, I feel really tight inside or stuck, or more agitated. And I find that when I walk, I'm moving the energy, I'm clearing energy through my body that's maybe stuck in places. And after I get going and I'm in my walk and I've moved the energy, I can really, it's like a clarity sets in and a calmness. And that's when I can just really stop thinking, having my brain kind of go crazy and I have to do this, I have to do this, but what about this? I'm trying to work out and solve problems, and I just get really quiet. And then I
That,
can just stay in that space, right, of walking and being present and having a quiet mind. And it's really beautiful.
yeah, when you can be present in, in your walking. And
Mm.
you mentioned, this clarity and even I'm going to say sensing this release in your body.
Mhm.
Tell me about where your mind goes when you're walking.
Mm. Well, at the beginning of my walks, I'm processing all the to-do lists, the many to-do lists in my mind, right? And have I done them and how am I going to do them? Um, and the shift to, sometimes I have to tell myself, okay, no, right? It's time to stop. You have to put it down. Sometimes I've even said, okay, I have to put it down, and I take it off and I go and I put it down on the side of the road and I keep walking, like sometimes I have to do the physical motions of it to help my brain go there. Um, but it's a really important practice for me because I'll just keep going. The hamster will just keep running faster and faster and
That's
faster.
right. It's the data processing that we have in our head, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I know you and I have talked about this off, before we started recording, but we are both cognitive head thinkers. We worked in, you still work in this industry,
Mhm.
where we are valued and rewarded for our cognitive ability to solve problems and the quick thinking and the troubleshooting and the
Yeah.
forecasting and, even the looking behind into root cause analysis and what has gone wrong along the way, and
Mhm.
how to make sure that never happens again. And so the mind is constantly going.
Yes.
And so I love that you have these practices of being with the earth, being with, your gardens and your chickens and yourself to let the mind just stop working so hard.
Mhm. Yes, it's very important. Very
So
important.
when you think about your inner work journey,
Mhm.
was there anything, a turning point or anything that you remember that was an event or an occurrence that brought you intentionally into this place where you're thinking, I need to do some work. There's work I need to do. Can you tell us about that if there was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely have a moment and I remember it so vividly, and I probably will for the rest of my life. Um, it was right around my birthday, which is in November. So the end of 2020. And I my daughters were young, younger than they are now.
Your
Uh,
daughters are still young,
They
Ericka.
are still young, but they were very young. They were more like toddler phase. Now they're elementary phase. Um, and I would just remember feeling so challenged by the day to day of life. Being a working parent and not being present when I was at home, and realizing that I wasn't showing up as the type of mother that I really wanted to be, you know. And I just had one of those light bulb moments of like, it's time. You need to invest in yourself. You need to make the time, and you need to find the right healer to work with. And I was grateful enough that I knew I had already met the person that I needed to work with. And so it was in that moment that I was able to just reach out and say, I'm ready. And that was the moment that started my true, real deep inner work that I've been doing for, since that moment, really.
So I want at this moment for you to give her a shout out because I know who she is. She's been a guest on our podcast. Laurel and I have interviewed her, I think once, at least once,
Yeah.
if not twice, but please give her a shout out by name and let the world know who you had already met and started working with.
Yes, I would love to. So, my dear friend and spiritual guide and healer is Bri McCorkle. She's based in New Hampshire. She's a true New Englander too, and she is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman, and she does such impactful work. And she's really the work. I get so emotional talking about her,
Please
but
do.
the work I've done with her is it's just changed my life.
So beautiful. And what I love about this, and I don't know a lot of the details, but you met her serendipitously, I'll say, right? The universe brought the two of you into the same place at the same time
Yes,
before you even knew you had work to do.
yes, yes. I love that because it's so true, Laurel. We met, when it was 2018, the spring of 2018, I was pregnant with my second daughter, and my sister Cass, she, as a gift together, she bought us tickets to go see another shout out, Amber Lillestrom's Ignite Your Soul Summit in Portland,
Yes.
New Hampshire that year. And I remember her gifting it to me and thinking, okay, I was like, okay, this will be good. It was something I knew I would never consider for myself. And we went together and we had an awesome girls' weekend. It was one of those times with my sister that I'll just treasure forever. And she had already known Bri. I think they had connected online and done some work together. And so they were meeting in person for the first time, and I was along for that ride. And we hit it off. We had a great time together at Amber Summit and getting to know each other. And Bri and I stayed connected after that. And it was just divine timing, right?
Yes. So, I'm curious, how has inner, the inner work, your inner work journey, even your way of being and how you show up, how has it affected the people that you work around? Now, you work in, I'm going to say it's a wireless technology or wireless communication technology company or industry.
Mhm.
Um, you are among few women in your workplace. So
Yep.
you work with primarily men.
Mhm.
And how have you begun to show up differently after doing this work? And how does it affect the people around you?
Mm. That's such an interesting question. I hope it affects them in a positive way. I know for me, I always my entire life had trouble taking up any space. And even at the beginning of my work with Bri, um, I remember having a hard time feeling like I could say to my family, "Oh, I'm gonna go for a walk for 2 hours, or I'm going to go, have a session.
I'm going to New Hampshire for a weekend.
Yeah, right. Just go take up that space. I almost felt guilty. Um, and I realized how much of a program that was in me, that I needed to unravel and reprogram. Um, and so, over the last 4 years of my inner work, my deep inner work, I'm no longer afraid to take up space, whether
Mm,
it's at home, whether it's at work. I feel more comfortable in my true self, and that I know my true self on a deeper level. And the deep knowing that, I have important contributions, and my voice is important, and my time is important, and my thoughts are important. And I'm not afraid to share them the way that I used to be.
mm. That's beautiful. And what a shift that is, right? To be able to show up in your full essence.
Yes,
Mm,
I mean it's still a daily struggle from time to time, but I feel so much more that I'm doing it every day than I ever have before, you
yeah.
know.
And how has it shown up or the benefits in your family? Now you have two young daughters and you are married.
Hmm.
And so here you have this family structure and you, they too are living your experience by your modeling a certain way of being with them. So what do you see there?
Mm. Well, having two daughters, I realized how important not only it was for me, but for them, to see me model this. Like if I'm going to be a working parent, right? I can't abandon myself at home by being a different type of mother than I truly want to be, right? I want to be present. I want to be loving. I want to be patient, and I want to be kind when I'm home. And, um, I had to work out how to get there. And that was really important because I want that experience for my daughters, but I also want to model that it's possible to be busy and to have your own career, but also um, be present and kind and loving when you're home with the people that you treasure the most in the world, you know?
It's so nice. And I too, I have two daughters and they are not young anymore, but still I often think about what is it that I modeled when I was at this stage in my career that, I was working full time and commuting an hour each way. And often we had no clean laundry, right? This was the thing. I would buy socks at CVS when we had to because life was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you live into that life with
Mhm.
all of the demands. But I sense that some of your calming practices and that intentional presence allows you to navigate the busyness of a demanding full life.
Yes, it really does. And I also, you know, what I've done over the last couple of years is lean into all the imperfections. You know, I'm the type of person that plans and I organize and I prepare and then I go and I do it. And I realized how much that was making me a little crazy. You know,
Can you
it's like,
tell us more about that, please?
yeah, you know, it's one of my superpowers. I think it's what has made my career really successful. But I also feel like I used it as a crutch to not be present in my home life, especially. And so I've been unraveling that a bit and leaning into the imperfections and trying to plan a little less, or when I make a plan, be okay when it doesn't go according to plan. And just like lean into the moment instead of trying to stay glued to the plan, you know? And that's been
Yes.
really challenging for me. There's been a lot
Yes.
of deep work there. Um, but I can just see how different I am when I have that mindset. And it's a really good different.
So, is there any, like, if you had a single tip to give our listeners who are, and I am one of these people, I am an over functioning person, right? I overfunction.
Yeah.
I overplan, I overthink, I over prepare. I mean, just last week, my husband said to me, "You have three vacations being planned in your own head." And I do. And I know exactly where we're going and when and how much it's going to cost us, right?
Yeah.
And they're all happening sometime in the future because I hold them there, right? And many of my clients and many of our listeners are in this same place where we hold it all
Mm.
together and in our head. So can you think of, how do you, any tip that you have for beginning to allow some imperfection and when things don't go according to plan, and I think about this a lot. Often it's our expectations that create our happiness in life.
Hmm.
And when we have, I'll say big for lack of a better word, but when we have expectations and things don't go as planned, we don't know how to let go of that grip of being the one controlling our life or creating our life, right? I think
Hmm.
about it as a death grip of creating the life I want, and I'm striving to create it. And I could go down a whole tangent about the striving for perfection in the workplace
Hmm.
and how we are rewarded for that, which then shows up in we don't know what to do if things don't go as planned. So anything, any advice, wisdom, sharing experience you want to give?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any tips, but I can share some things that I use as tools to kind of check myself and keep
Okay.
me in that space. And I ask myself, who are you right now, Ericka? And who do you want to be? Right? Because there's a difference in those moments when you're gripping to control and planning and trying to make it just the way you want it, right? I'm not, I can, it helps me see that that's not who I really want to be, how I really want to show up. So I try and look at, okay, in those moments of stick to the plan, stay in control, right? Make it happen. I'm like, okay, who are you? Who are you being right now? And who do you want to be? And I try and shift whatever expectations or things that I'm doing towards who I want to be. And usually it's leading away from the control and into the chaos.
Wow, that is wisdom right there. Leaning away from the control and into the chaos. What a gift and talent that is.
It's really hard. But I'm trying. I feel like at least I'm ready to try. For so many years of my life, I was not. I was just glued to that plan, and needed to control. And so I'm really working on that. And the other mantra I guess I have for myself, or a reminder that I'm really tethered to right now, is just, I'm here to surrender to the flow, um, and staying connected to love, right?
That is beautiful. Can you say that one more time?
I'm here to surrender to the flow and stay connected to love.
Mm, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And, just kind of what's coming through for me right now is the way that you've described your life, your connection to the earth, your gardening, your animals, your children, even even your work in the workplace. Like being connected to that flow of life and having love be part of that connection. I mean, I can sense that that really shows up in your life. Yeah.
I feel that it does.
Yeah.
I feel that it does.
So we're going to wrap up soon, but I have just two more questions maybe.
Mm,
So you and I, cognitive head thinkers, some of our highest and best value comes from our cognitive ability.
mhm,
And um, you've been talking a lot about kind of quieting that
mhm,
and having some sense of knowing, right? I think you mentioned it maybe when you were walking, this clarity. And can you tell us about how you might manage or balance your wisdom and intelligence that comes from elsewhere, right? Outside of your head, right?
mhm. Well, it took me a while to really connect to it and to hear that voice. That's not the voice in your head, not the thoughts, but more of the feels, right? Um, and so developing those few daily practices and the quieting and the walking really helped me connect to more of the feeling and my intuition and the knowing that comes from a different place, right outside of my mind. Um, and it's been a commitment too, right? I think that most days, um, the noise is coming from my head, right? All the things that are coming through are from my head, and I really have to practice getting to the quiet space so I can get underneath it. I can get to um, the feels and the things that I'm feeling into in my body instead of the thoughts that are coming through my mind, and it's been a journey to experience and feel into those two different ways of connection.
Yeah. And then I'm so curious when we think about, you know, knowing yourself better and showing up as who you want to be rather than, I'm going to call it a reactionary, who you are in the moment. And then deeply connected, allowing flow, leaning into the flow from a place of love. How do you do that at work? Because we we are brought into this place of having to perform really well at work. The rewards, the stakes are high. Often we are taught to control our emotions. And I say that I talk a lot when I'm speaking about managing emotions and using your emotional, you call it the feels, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's your emotions or it's your body sensations, your body's wisdom coming out through maybe some people might feel the energy of the room,
Mhm.
but how do you allow yourself to bring what I might call heart led intelligence or intuition led intelligence? How do you allow that to come out at work in the industry you work in, surrounded by men, right? Um, and does it feel vulnerable? Is really where, like, how do you do it?
You know, it's centered in, yeah, I made myself a promise at the beginning of this year, starting this calendar year, we choose our words, and I just made a new commitment to myself, that I was really going to stop abandoning myself in
Mhm.
small and big ways. And a lot of that work had to happen in my workplace.
You
Just,
spend a lot of hours at work.
yeah, absolutely. And I kind of see it as a superpower that I have. And it's something that, it's when I'm at work, it's happening and kind of in the background. And I don't necessarily know that other people see it. I don't think that if I tried to share it, they would understand it. But I see it as a superpower because, I can be in a room in a meeting with men, women, and I can be listening and understanding the content, but I can also be feeling into how people are showing up, how people are experiencing what's happening, how, when someone's presenting, how they're feeling about what they're presenting, and or even on a deeper level where it's coming from. And I think that that really helps me in the work that I do, my contributions, understanding the priorities, understanding why things are happening the way that they are. Um, and so it's definitely given me it's supported my abilities, I think, at work, and it's helped me grow in a really positive way. And I will say that in my workplace, I am one of the few women, and I'm one of the few senior women, especially in the immediate office that I work in. And so one of the things that's been really important to me that I realized over the last year or two was I'm a model here too. And to be really intentional about what I'm modeling for the other women here in my workplace. And also that to be honest about who I am and to lead with vulnerability, so that I can help other women feel ready and wanting to know their truest selves and bring that to wherever they go, whether it's work or anywhere else, right? And not be afraid to take up that space.
Yes, and as you were speaking, I was reminded of your involvement in. I wrote it down. I have it in my notes, so just I'm going to or gaze over there. No, the company you work for, but you're also involved in a women's wireless leadership forum.
Yes, yes. One of the organizations in our industry is really beautiful that they've intentionally made a space for women to come together throughout our industry. It's been really great.
Yeah, and I can imagine, you have your leadership position at work. You're modeling there, you're modeling with your daughters, you're modeling, with your husband and other personal relationships. And here you are modeling in the industry as well. Um, and I recall, did you run for a municipal leadership position in the past?
I haven't personally. I
Okay.
have a friend who did,
Okay.
but I am involved in one of the other industry associations, the Virginia Wireless Association, and that's been really enriching too, to get further involved in my industry outside of my organization.
Yeah.
But I will share, our company created an employee resource group for women within the last year, and I've taken an active role in that, and really, really enjoyed seeing how the women coming together. and having an intentional space, even if it's just once a month, has just really made us all a bit stronger in ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And recently I was asked, I tend to um, navigate and network and even socially. I am involved in a lot of women's groups.
Mhm.
And I too had a career, in energy and environmental world where I found myself as the only woman in the room at certain times. And when someone asked me recently why that is where I spend my time these days in what I call predominantly male industries, and I was left with this, kind of how do I explain this? And the thing I often think about is being in those spaces, we are modeling vulnerability and heart-centered leadership to women who have been taught to close off their heart in the workplace.
Yes.
But we are also bringing it to the men in those places so that they can become comfortable with heart-centered leadership, either with themselves or watching others, right? And I really truly believe that the entire world will change when we are heart-centered rather than head-centered.
Yes, I love how you put that heart centered. I believe that too, Laurel. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's so much fun. So we have a few parallels, Ericka, I have to
We
say.
sure do. We sure do.
So we're going to say goodbye, but is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to leave our listeners with? Maybe um
Yeah, this has just been such a great conversation, Laurel, and I'm so grateful for the invitation and to be able to share, my experience. And I just want to say to listeners, you might be listening to me talk about my life and thinking about how beautiful and great maybe I sound, but there's so many challenges, and there's so every day I have to remind myself that to give myself grace and and just remember we're all human, right?
yes, thank you. And I like to I describe my life as beautiful, and it's what makes it beautiful is the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It is one mix of mess that
Yeah.
makes it beautiful, right?
Yes, that was the word I was thinking too. A beautiful mess, right? A beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful
Maybe
mess.
maybe we'll call the podcast season next year like how to how to find beauty in the mess, right?
Right?
Well, thank you again so much for being with us today. I
Oh,
loved learning more about you and hearing about your experience. And I really can sense that you are not just living a beautiful life, but again, modeling and teaching others how to lean into life so that it is beautiful. Thank
thank
you.
thank you, Laurel.
I'll see you again, I hope.
Absolutely. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Another really fun interview with a new guest. Thank you. Thank you for being with me today. And I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ericka Lewis. I learned so much from listening to her and talking with her. It really was a great reminder that heart-centered leadership is what we're capable of and what we need to bring that presence and inner peace to our own lives, to create beautiful lives. I hope you can take some of the things you heard today, some of the learnings and experience of others, and bring them forward in your life. Try something new. Try to approach maybe your workplace in a more heart centered way. Try to be present with your family, your friends, in relationships. Connect deeply with other people and the earth. Those are the things I heard today in the conversation with Ericka. So powerful. And I hope you enjoyed it again as much as I did. We'll be back next week with more interviews, more conversations with me and Laurel, more things to think about, more beautiful work. and beautiful lives and the stories of both. All right. Bye for now. We'll see you again next week.